happy to be here. First of all, thank you for having me, Kavan. You and team have been doing a fantastic job. And thank you, HP, for supporting initiatives like these. I think the design fraternity needs a lot of these. So I'm just going to begin with sharing my screen, and somebody has to tell me if it's visible in a moment.
Yeah, this is visible.
This is cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, as Kavan said, and many other people we keep hearing, that print is dead, and this is like a favorite punching bag of many people in after a few rounds of discussions on many other things and how digital is the thing and how everything is going digital first, mobile first, etc. This is a favorite sentence or statement by people who couldn't be far from truth, because print is not dead. It's definitely not going anywhere, and yeah, it's far from. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because every time a new medium has come and the old one has been labeled as dead or bygone or over. But if you see the history of every time we kept adding a new medium, the older one just evolved itself into something else, and it still remained relevant and it still remained quite at the top of its game. And this has happened over and over again, except a few like barring a few exceptions. This has happened over and over again. I mean, when television started, everybody said who would go to the theaters to watch movies, and television thrived. And then when OTT started, everybody said who's going to see that, who's going to see television, and it's still on. And then when television, OTT, mobile, everything is around, people said books are going to be dead, but they are not. Interestingly, India is the only country where newspapers were still growing. And I'm not really aware of what has happened during the COVID times. Probably it's not the same scene anymore, but I'm sure they'll spring back. So as many media as interests, and nothing ever goes dead unless they decide not to be relevant, unless they go completely off their alignment. So before we get into anything else today, I thought let me begin by a story, which is of course my favorite story, and it is relevant even in this kind of a gathering. We have designers here. We have people who are aggregating designers and design services, and then we have people who are leading with technology that's going to help designers. And each of us has come with our own interest, our own piece, and together all of us are actually looking at the same big picture, and that's really what this story is about. So it's a story about six blind people long ago in India. uh, and they were all curious, so they heard one day that an elephant is going to pass by from their village. And because they were curious, they said, oh, we need to know what it is. So each of them walked up to this creature, and because they couldn't see, they of course touched a part of the elephant and came back very wise. Each of them came back and said, I know what an elephant is. So the person who touched the leg said, oh, it's like a tree trunk. But the person who touched the tail said, no, it's like a rope. And the one who touched the ear said, no, it's like a fan. And then, of course, they started arguing like all Indians love an argument. And nobody was willing to concede. Everybody said, I'm right because I have actually felt it myself. And that's the only truth. But then came somebody who could see, and he said, you know what? All of you are right. And they said, how is that possible? So he said, because each of you has touched a part. And if you put all of them together, you will see the big picture. And I think today in this gathering, each of us holds a really shiny part of the jigsaw puzzle. And if we put it together, I think the future of print is definitely brighter. And I think this is the best platform for all of us as designers to say what we want from print. And probably the people who are actually seeing the future of technology, this is the best platform for us, for them to tell us what they are seeing in the future. So let's make the most of it, and let's see the big picture of print that we are here for today. But before we speak about print, I'm going to talk about an example which is an exception, and an exception that didn't particularly manage to thrive or didn't particularly manage to evolve. And probably that's also because they didn't together see the big picture, didn't see the future, didn't talk about the future in good time. And what is that example? I'm going to talk about cameras and history of photography and cameras. And I know most of you are probably from the times when you haven't seen what a film roll is. But long ago, there used to be cameras which had film rolls that needed to be loaded, and you could only shoot 36 or 24 frames, and then you had to remove that reel and develop those into prints. And then somewhere around 2000, the camera phones started, right? So all of us, of course, today use our phones and cameras into, it's almost an interchangeable term now. So our phone is our camera and many other things. But it's not very long ago, it's just 20 years ago that the first camera phone happened. And very quickly, the film roll and the camera industry very quickly diminished. Actually, some of those, the biggest, in fact, like Kodak and so on, just simply had to shut down some businesses because they didn't see it coming. What they kept doing is they kept looking at the future of cameras, but they didn't keep looking at the future of photography. So I think there is a big difference between that. And then what really happened today is, of course, it's many of those are history now. But photography didn't diminish, right? People kept doing photographs. I mean, look at the number of photographs that are uploaded on Instagram today, or look at the number of stories that happen on across all the social media. So photography hasn't stopped. A human mind always wants to record and broadcast. That hasn't stopped. But the medium has changed. The camera completely is kind of diminishing. I'm going to give you a little example of what is happening in photography, and some of you might have known of this. So, IKEA, which is also now in India, and now I think they opened their second store in Mumbai, globally were very well known for their catalogs. And people used to sort of literally look forward to when they would publish their catalogs so that people could look through them. Interior designers to homemakers to students, everybody could look through them and plan how their dream home would be, and then go ahead and buy it from IKEA. And IKEA catalogs had reached such a peak that I think somewhere in 2016 they were printing 200 million catalogs across 32 countries and languages. It was so popular, it was so coveted, and it was so looked forward to. And people loved the photographs in them because they could help them dream, right? But doing these photographs was a big nightmare because you had to get those furniture items together. You had to get the right ambience, the right lighting, the right accessories, do the shoot, send it all back to the warehouse, and if something went wrong you had to do all that all over again. And then around 2016-17, IKEA started realizing that there are other solutions. You don't have to photograph. So what you see on the right side is IKEA 3D lab. So people literally are creating all those amazing interior photographs in 3D, in softwares that help them make them look absolutely realistic. So now what has happened? Recently, IKEA declared that 75% of the photographs that you see on their catalogs online or offline or website, for 75% of the photographs are photorealistic 3D images. They are not photographs. This left a lot of people heartbroken, especially people who love those photos and imagine their lives around them, that these are just images created, but they look so real. So what does this mean really? Future of photography may not have cameras and may not even have photographs. It may have image making, but it may not have photographs. And worse still, I just heard the news a couple of weeks ago that IKEA is no more going to print catalogs. Those 200 million or whatever the number was, I think the last of the catalogs are being printed in December and Jan now, and they will no more be catalogs because everybody has moved to digital. Now, if this is the sign of times, printmakers really have to evolve, right? We have to really learn from what has happened to cameras. Photography may not have cameras, and photography may not even have photographs. So you can imagine how much evolution is happening in peripheral technologies, and print really needs to take cue. So, what is the future of print? And many of us know the evolution. I mean, many of us have seen those images of really large, bulky, chunky printers to the really sleek ones to the small batch tabletop to the 3D printers. We are seeing what's happening with printers, right? We are seeing the evolution. And that is actually an alignment to how people want printers to function for them, what printers should be doing for people. I'm going to tell you a little story before we go into what's happening in print. And this is also again a story of adaptability. So this is a story of a little spring. If any of you have ever opened your ballpoint pens and looked inside, there is a little spring and there is a refill, right? And that spring is actually very crucial to that ballpoint. The ballpoint cannot function, cannot click, cannot write properly if the spring is not there or if the spring is not functioning properly. So this is a story of this little spring that used to live inside a pen. Okay, it's a story. So I'm going to personify the spring. The spring used to feel that I am really cozy inside here and this is my place and I'm safe and I'm doing my job so well and I never want to leave this pen. This is it. This is my life and I love this because I'm so useful and people like writing with this pen. But one day, the refill ran out of the ink. And so the owner of the pen actually opened it out to replace the refill. And just, he got himself another refill. And in the process, because the spring is springy, the spring kind of jumped out of the hands of this person. And it just so happened that there was a drain around it. There was a wash basin and a drain around it, and the spring fell into that drain of the wash basin. This is the worst nightmare a spring could have, right? The spring who used to love being inside the pen and never wanted to go out and found the whole world safe and cozy literally went down the drain by mistake, of course. Nobody intended it to happen. And then that spring actually literally had to face one, one flush of water after another, after another, after another. And the spring, every time it would go through that water flow and flush would think that, oh, this is the end of the world and what's the point? And, why am I not dead? Why am I seeing this life? I was so happy inside that pen. That spring eventually landed up being somewhere near a water stream and then happened to just get washed off the shore of that water stream. And then it happened to look at one rosebud, which was feeling very, very, very sad because the rosebud had broken, the neck had broken because of something, because of some rowdy kids playing around or the wind or whatever. And the spring looked at that rosebud and said, you know what, I can fix you. Let me just go through your stem and I'll hold you and you'll be fine. And the spring literally did that. And guess what? When somebody from around came to pick up the flowers, they even picked this rosebud and took it home and put it in the vase and then put some water, and that bud had a life for a few days. But of course, the bud has a life for a few days and it came to an end. And then the spring was still around, and spring now had no function because the bud was going to be thrown. And just when that was going to happen, somebody from that home realized that their pendulum clock was not working and all it needed was a little spring. So basically, the spring found yet another life. And isn't that amazing? I mean, a spring actually has so many uses. It just needed to be adaptive and flexible. And that's basically it. That's really what happened. So, what are the survival and growth guides for any industry, whether it's print, whether it's design, whether it's consulting, anything at all? What are the survival and growth guides? And I'll just give you 5 points in that before we move on to what the next part is. Intelligence, we have to know exactly when to change things. Skills, we literally need to have some skills so that we can make a difference in what we are doing. We need to be fit mentally and physically. We need to be creative. We have to find solutions that are creative. Now, you saw the spring and you saw how many ways in which it could make a difference. That's true about any industry. You have to find yourself to be useful in many ways. And of course, you have to have critical thinking ability. And if you don't have it, you have to sharpen it and sort of maneuver yourself into understanding how to do that. Because there is no other way than finding some of these for survival and growth for any industry. Back to print. So, what's happening with print currently? There are newspapers, there are books, there are brochures, there are catalogs, there is packaging, there's fashion, there's retail. There's so much happening in print actually. Print, as I said, is definitely not dead. And why is it? Why is print thriving? Because it has actually evolved. And there's so many things that are being done today and very exciting ones. So there are personalized newspapers being done. Apart from the ones, of course, that get delivered in the morning, there are personalized newspapers. These are short run, greetings, birthdays, grand wishes, marriages, anniversaries, little moments, very special moments being celebrated through a little printmaking. And this cannot be substituted by something on the mobile phone, right? It cannot be substituted by a little WhatsApp. When you hold a full print page in your hand, which is wishing you for your special day, that's an unparalleled experience. Print is actually happening in so many other places. So there is print in fashion now. So there are shoes and clothes and t-shirts that are getting personalized printing. And that's also on the rise. So there is so many occasions when we want very personalized prints. We don't want something off the shelf. But you can get that done now. It's possible to do that with new print technology. And then, of course, this is also a very large opportunity area, which is personalized messages, personalized announcements, personalized wishes, personalized greetings. Very large industry, and many of us as designers actually can find a lot of work in there and a lot of satisfaction because you would be making somebody's day special. And there is a lot of print happening in retail. Retail still has a lot and lot of print that's doing communication and messaging. And interestingly, fashion is picking up on personalized prints. So I believe Alia is wearing some print which is like a collage of her movies and her pictures and her sketches and so on. And it's an extremely personalized dress. Nobody else could wear. It's one dress, but it's possible to do that now with the kind of print technology that's available. All of these examples, what do they actually do? They make a big difference to a chosen few. But if I look at my own journey and I have kind of consciously taken some calls, I have always looked at, instead of making big difference to few people, I have always chosen to touch many lives. So I have always looked at things which will make a mega difference, which will make a really large wave of whatever it is trying to do. Whether whether it's print, it's packaging, it's a space, it's an experience, it's an app. I've always looked at using whatever I know for touching many lives. And print actually is today the best ally for doing any of that. Print is your best friend for doing that mega change in many lives. Apart from, of course, making a difference to chosen few. And how is that happening? And I have a few examples that I'm going to share. Like I said, I have chosen to think big and touch many lives, and therefore I'm looking at examples that will tell you exactly that. So I do a lot of packaging. My studio does a lot of FMCG packaging and also some limited edition packaging and all kinds of packaging work that happens. And packaging is the first moment of truth. Whether you're standing in a supermarket or you're browsing on your screen, packaging is the first moment of truth. So if you can make a difference in packaging and difference to the user, especially, then you're actually touching many lives in a very positive way. And I look at it that way. So, what is the future of packaging? And are we as designers ready to actually exploit the future of packaging through what is available through the technology of print? So, I'm going to talk basis a few of the trends that are ongoing. The first trend, of course, we've seen a lot of it during the last few months: eating local, eating fresh. How can print help us do that, especially in packaging? So I have a couple of examples here, as you can see. These are orange juice bottles, which are actually from oranges that are bottled right inside a supermarket store, right in front of you. And you can see at what time the juice was bottled. You can literally see each of the bottles having a label of at what time did it come out, how fresh is it. So if you entered the supermarket at 10 o'clock, you know that something was made exactly 66 minutes before you picked it up. And it's as fresh as that. So there is no doubt left for how stale or where it has come from. It was made right there. And here it is. How transparently can you tell when it was bottled? The example that you see on the left is about meat going bad. And literally, as you can see, it's an hourglass. So the inks are made in such a way that they literally tell you when the meat is going bad, when the time is running out. So you can pick it up when the time is available, plenty of time available, and you don't pick it up when the time is run out, which means the lower part of the hourglass is filled up. You don't pick that up. And then, of course, there are inks which are also time sensitive, light sensitive, temperature sensitive, and they can do many messages, such as, this tub is literally telling you, don't eat me, I've gone off. Yeah. So all these are wonders of print actually, and they can be short run, they can be large run, depending upon what brand you're working on. But as designers, we have to be able to visualize what print can do for us and our users. Connected world, yeah, of course, all of us are super connected. We wouldn't be here talking to each other right now if there was no Wi-Fi and so on. Uh, so how can packaging do that? What can packaging do because we are all connected? Can packaging tell us much more than what's on the label? Can my strawberry yogurt tell me which farm the strawberries have come from, which farm the cow milk has come from? Can it tell me that beyond nutritional facts? Imagination is our only tool, and we have to be able to imagine what all can be done. So everything can actually be connected, everything can tell a story. So through print, a milk carton can take you actually into a farm where the cows are being preserved. Through print, you can see an augmented reality and you can see what kind of recipes you can do with something. Through print, you can see what temperature something needs to be preserved at. And that's very important for especially pharma products because they need to be, stored at a particular temperature. So all of this is possible only if we imagine as designers how we can make the most of what is possible. Now we have this age of conversation. Every pack is trying to actually tell you something, but how can we do that? How can we actually customize it or personalize it? This is like a pack of it's a batch of medicines, and they're telling you what it does and what it doesn't do. And this can be again done with the help of short run print, because you can give messaging as you like to what kind of people you want, in whatever language you want, in whatever quantities you want. That is, if you have the empathy for the final user. This is a little example I pulled out from our work, in fact. This is, if any of you have consumed paper boat, and if you've turned the pouch around, you would see a little message at the bottom of the pouch. Now that's again a short run. It's there is a printer that is anyways going to print the date of packaging and the expiry and this and the mandatory information. We just decided that we'll make use of that and give a little message that will put smile on somebody's face, and that's it. You can do that. So limitation, as I said, is only your imagination. And then there is, of course, very large brands trying to do things like these, which is try and have a little story, try and have a little customization, personalization. You can give a pack of anything to your friend, bro, bhai, whatever, and make him or her feel good about it. That personalized. And that's happening, of course, in many brands. Many large brands are actually taking the bait and doing these kind of packs. And maybe these some of these packs, we'll probably hear about them a little later also, as we speak to Ashok a little later. But all these are, immense possibilities. So there is no limitation. Print can let you do that. The most important thing, especially in case of pharma, as I already spoke, and one of the biggest problems that pharma industry faces is spurious medicines, which are really bad for all of us. And how would print help us do that problem solving? So today you can do that, and many other safety and security print is also being done through limited edition or desktops or very focused, personalized, customized solutions. You can have an app which tells you whether that product is authentic or not. You can have a product that prints something very very specific and tells you whether the seal is secure and so on. All these possibilities are very very important for our times, because we don't want to have anything that's not genuine, anything that's spurious or adulterated, and print can help you do those problem solving. And the last one, which I'm going to talk about, is as designers and of course as printmakers, what we need to be is responsible and look at sustainable solutions. And how do we do that? Sometimes I feel we over design. Sometimes I feel we use excessive material, excessive pictures, excessive print, excessive inks, and all of that actually lands up into, where does it land up? We don't know, right? What happens to it after it's thrown into a waste? Like the mound that you see is actually a waste paper, and what you see on the right side is a waste from ink cartridges. Where does it all go? Landfills, right? We are just filling tons and tons. So we have to be really cautious about how much material we use, what material we use, what kind of inks we use, how much of ink is necessary to make an impact. All of this plays a big role in, reducing the landfills really, and we can play that role as designers. So this is an interesting example. The Eco font, which was I think developed in Netherlands, which has a little less of black. As you can see, there are dots, so that part is not printed. And when this font prints really small, it still reads perfectly fine. It's called an Eco font, and this reduces 20% of ink usage. So you don't need solid letters to make your point, right? You can have letters with holes and you can still make it as your point. And then another example I found, which is McDonald's, a really large brand who took a bold decision to just print in one single ink, one single color, and not have layers and layers and layers of pictures and, you know, many colors, images, none of that. And it's still very impactful, as you can see. So, whether a large brand or a small brand, limited edition or just business communication, there are ways and means to be more eco friendly, more sustainable. And if we just put our mind to it before we take any big decision, we can use all these tricks and, they'll really go a long way. So that actually brings me to my last message. Well, there are three messages. That as designers, it's extremely important to stay optimistic because times like the last few months will happen once in a century. I hope not again. But we have to be resilient. We have to stay optimistic because times do change. We have to be flexible. I told you this little children's story of spring, but I think we all need to be that flexible. We all need to understand that today we might be doing something, but tomorrow we should be ready to do something else using the exact same skills and intelligence and critical thinking, but something else. And the third one, I really like to tell all of you, go wrong. Now, what am I saying? Why am I saying go wrong? I don't mean you should go wrong. What I mean is keep trying new things. Because unless we try new things, we will not actually go into the next paradigm. We will not actually go into the next zone. We will not be able to save that rosebud or the dying grandfather clock. So try doing something new. It's okay if we go wrong. I think that's like a stepping stone. And that will, of course, don't make the same mistake again, but do go wrong if you're trying. It's perfectly all right. Try something else next time and that'll fall right. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say about print. Many things to do. It's all in our hands. Our limitation is our imagination. So don't let that happen. And happy printmaking. You can get in touch with me on any of these mediums, and I'm happy to be in touch with you. Thank you very much.
Great.
Over to you, Kavan.
Thank you so much, Ashwini ma'am. I think that was a power-packed, very concise presentation. So thanks a ton for that. And I'm sure if we all were, in a live audience, you definitely get a great thunderous applause. Unfortunately, on Zoom, it's very difficult to make that happen. I think the spring story was personally the favorite part of my presentation, at least. So now guys, everybody will move on to a Q&A round. If you have any questions to ask Ashwini ma'am, please drop them on the chat. So we already have a couple of questions which were asked beforehand. So I'm going to start picking some of them right away to make the most of the time. And guys, please, as I mentioned, keep on asking questions. It's a good window for you to get an answer from the horse's mouth. So the first question, which a lot of people are asking actually, and I'm going to sum it up for a bunch of people, even something in the chat recently, is experimental doing experiments when it comes to printing, packaging, is very exciting. However, how do you end up convincing a brand? Because many times it could cost more. It's like taking a lot of risks. How do you convince a brand that you should take up such a risk and try an experiment, especially if you're not Ashwini Deshpande, if you're just somebody who's young, who's starting something, who's trying something with a client right now? So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks for this question. And even if you're Ashwini Deshpande, you do get rejection. So it doesn't change. That's the life of a designer. But I think the whole excitement is of course in finding some new ways of doing something. And most often than not, even the clients are actually interested in doing something new. Uh, as long as you're able to create a proof of concept. So make friends within people who create mock-ups and people who do short-run prints and people who do simulations and stuff, because proof of concept is probably the best way to try whether your fantastic idea is working at all, and also to convince the client that look, this is how it's going to be and it can work and so on. Because many a times things that are looking amazing on screen don't land up looking so when you make the proof of concept, when you create a mock-up, and it needs a few adjustments and it needs a few changes. So one, proof of concept mock-up is extremely important. So make a great network of people who will create your mock-ups. And second, try and test it with an audience. Try and test how things work, not yourself or your friends, but somebody who's the intended audience. So I am a great believer of quick testing and failing and going back to the drawing board. So yeah, and be ready for rejections, guys. It's okay, keep trying.
Got it. So be ready for rejections and try our best to convince the client with the proof of concept. That sounds great. Next question we have from Parul. She's mentioned that, by the way, she loves the paperboat back side of the pack. So good stuff with that. She's asking, did you consider making the paperboat packaging eco-friendly as well? And if so, how did you go about doing that in the first place is the question.
Yeah, so thanks. This is a fantastic question. I love this question, especially when there is an audience who's interested in making the world a better place. So am I. So I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what is eco-friendly and what is sustainable. So the only way to make something eco-friendly or sustainable is not by replacing plastics. There are many other ways. I mean, of course, you can replace plastics if you can. If there are materials that are sustainable, that provide you the barrier properties so that a product is made, shipped, transported, stored, chilled, and it reaches you in the perfect condition. If there are materials which are replacement to plastic, and the world is, in search of those, and they're coming up definitely. But if you cannot do that, if you do not have a material that has the barrier properties to make your product last that whole cycle that I mentioned, then you have to find different ways to make things sustainable. So, for example, in case of paperboard, the choice was between a PET bottle or a glass bottle or a Tetra Pak and Doi pack, which is what is the paperboard pouch. And what we realized is that when you use something like a pouch, uh, when it gets transported and when it gets transported back, it uses almost 7 times less volume, which means you're using 7 times less fuel in transporting back when it's a waste, right? Saving a fuel 7 times is no small feat. So we consciously took the decision of going towards the lesser evil. When world is full of evil, you have to try and choose the lesser evil. Whereas in case of the bottles or the cartons, the volume of filled and empty is exactly the same. Weight might be different, but the volume is exactly the same. So even when a waste comes back, it requires the exact same volume in those trucks that ship the waste. And that's how we resolved it. In case of some other clients, for example, Tata Salt and Kurkure, where the volumes of making those products and pouches are so high that there are no suppliers who can actually supply you the materials which are eco-friendly. There are no converters who have the kind of speed that is required for those eco-friendly materials. So then what do you do? Then what you try and do is out of the year's volume, maybe a month's volume can be done using that kind of a material. So you start small. See, you don't give up because things cannot be changed completely. You start small, you start somewhere, you start bit by bit from every angle. Try and do things that cannot be, that can give you a better result. So, for example, in case of Organic India, the tea bags do not use any plastics, do not use any pins, and do not use any gum with plastics. So, I mean, it doesn't sound humongous, but it's a start. So, try and find every angle possible where you can begin, make a beginning. There is no ideal day or ideal anything. Just make a beginning. Does that
Got it.
answer? I hope, Parul, it answers your question.
Yes. I'll move on to the next question. Thanks for that. So a very specific question from Asmita is, when it comes to experimental printmaking such as Riso and letterpress, is there really a market for this in the mainstream design industry?
So I think you already answered your question. Is there a market? I mean, see, it's like this. There are a lot of trade-offs. So when you're doing, let's say, a letterpress printing, the trade-off is the speed, right? I mean, you cannot get the kind of speed that you can get through some other automated kind of processes. But when you do those automated processes, you don't get the kind of finish that you get in letterpress. So you have to decide what is best for your brand. I want to remind all the designers that no matter what you're designing, it is not your personal expression. It is what is best for the brand. So think what is best for the brand. If a small batch, slow production, handmade is better for your brand, it's fine for your brand doesn't need to produce millions in a day, then you can go for any of these. But if your brand needs to produce millions, like let's say the examples that I gave you, like Kurkure or Tata Salt, then it's impossible to experiment because I love letterpress. I cannot tell Tata Salt that, you need 7 million bags a day, but I love letterpress. That's impractical. So see what is best for your brand.
Fair. Got it. Got it. Anupama has asked us again a specific question where, she's asking what's the best way to get good prints on wavy, handmade, recycled paper.
Wow. Maybe I can get Kavan you, or I can request Ashok to answer that question because I don't know. I don't have the best trick maybe. I also do trials and errors, but maybe I can request Ashok to pitch in.
No, no, definitely. I can help Ashwini. You and the audience here is, although I will address it in my one of my presentation that our technology can handle a lot of varieties of the papers, right? And it starts from paper to texture papers to handmade papers to plastics to PCs and the polycarbonates of the world. So there is a wide media latitude that can be printed now, even on a digital and an HP Indigo presses. So we are happy to connect, with the I forgot the name, the lady who asked the question, to give them a proof of concept on one of the Indigo press near to the location, and definitely help them to give a POC to them.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
I think when a specific question comes, I think, if you're not able to find the right answer as well, we'd be happy to take it offline and give you a solution there.
Super.
Uh,
I want to just add to this that when you're making a choice of something like a handmade paper, it is like handmade, hand woven cloth. So there will be a little difference between that and the machine made paper, and you have to be willing to do that. In fact, that's the beauty of it. So use make the most of that beauty of that little irregularity that you might get in the print.
correct. I'm seeing a lot of questions which are similar, so I'm going to try to sum them up and ask you, two questions again. One is, which I can understand, is a lot of people are still struggling when they are, let's say, in a creative process, in the middle of it. How can someone who maybe doesn't necessarily have a large enough research team understand the sustainability quotient, or how to understand, how sustainable what I'm creating right now will eventually be?
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult one. It's a good question and it's a good thought. And there ideally needs to be a pool where we can sort of go in and check in and say, hey, I'm going to use this, and what is the carbon footprint of that, and so on. I believe somebody is working on an app right now, which where you feed in the material and the grammage and numbers, and it tells you the kind of carbon footprint you'll be creating. And I'm just hoping that that gets commercialized very soon. I'm forgetting the name of the app, but it's a school girl who's created this app with her father, and I very recently came across this, and I hope it helps all of us as well.
That sounds really awesome. Actually, that'll be really easy, when you're creating maybe something in your tool itself, it kind of gives you like a rank. That'll be really, really, important if
Yeah,
anybody in the audience.
Kavan, you can do a plugin into Indifolio, and you could give a resource like this. People could check into
Yeah,
Indifolio and see if you have a resource like that. Imagine how much help that will be.
absolutely. I think, like you mentioned, if people are working on it, there's definitely a way for us to, at least highlight the ones who are, and distribute that to the community for sure. The next question, just as an add-on on top of it was, when you're again creating something, in your creative process, how do you balance out being sustainable versus also rendering a good experience for the customer? Are there very often sacrifices you need to make on the way? And how do you really balance that out, especially for a massy product?
Okay, so let's understand one thing. A designer, what's the role of a designer? A role of a designer is to work to a client's brief, right? If the client wants their brand and their company and their products to be extremely sustainable, then they would tell you so in the brief. And if the client is actually not bothered about it, they would again tell you so in their brief, right? But from our side, because we are the conscientious lot and we kind of take the world's load on our shoulders and believe that we need to make the world more sustainable, we can always keep track of whatever other solutions possible, whatever other available solutions within the means, within the budgets of what the client has specified, because client needs to be sustainable as well, right? As a business, if the client doesn't survive, then you have no business. So if the client needs to be sustainable, their brand needs to be sustainable, then you have to follow and you have to find out whatever is available and keep suggesting. And believe me, nobody has a black heart. Everybody wants the world to be greener and better. So if you're able to keep track of whatever available solutions are there, and if you're able to align them with the client's brief, usually people will not refuse. They will definitely explore and they'll go in and see. But being sustainable cannot be your number one priority if you are doing any commercial project. Your number one priority has to be you work to the brief, make the most of that. And within that, if you can infuse goodness, sustainability, all of that, wonderful. Please do it. You should do it.
Understood. Understood. So, guys, we are running a little short on time on the question answer round. We are having a panel discussion where I'll address more questions. Just the last one before we move to Mr. Ashok's presentation and then the panel was a question which, I wanted to ask is, and I've seen some questions also in the Q&A chat is, definitely we've seen that, as you mentioned, like print is not dead yet, and it has a very strong emotional connect as well. I personally believe, you don't really have a wallpaper on your desktop which you'd put that as an award you've gotten, maybe something which really feel you'll print that out and you'll put that on your desk, and it has that emotional value. So my question was, in 2021, when everybody's making emailers today and interactive microsites and websites today, how can print be a strong marketing channel for brands in 2021, be it specific collaterals or just 1-2 examples you can give on how print can be utilized?
So you're talking about specifically the times we are living in?
I just meant generally as a marketing avenue. Yes, I think right now for this year itself, we couldn't contextualize with the whole pandemic coming in. But whatever thoughts you have, very quickly.
So, yeah, this last year has thrown all of us into something else. I'll be lying if I tell you that I always had a plan B and I knew how I would deal with something like this. And I think we've had to find many, many ways to, figure marketing. But last year really has been of digital and Zoom and so on. And I'm sure print has taken a hit. And, a lot of the products that were not essential have also taken a hit. So marketeers really have to do collaborations. I've seen very unrelated brands doing collaborations so that they could reach the same audience. So I think those are one of the ways. Just yesterday, I heard one of our brands, in fact, is collaborating with. So the Tata Sampann brand is now collaborating with Sanjeev Kapoor's recipes and Tata Starbucks, and you're going to be seeing, some new fusion recipes in Starbucks now. So these are very unusual times. So very unusual collaborations need to be thought of for marketing, and I'm sure they'll take everybody a long way.
Got it. Awesome. I'm so sorry we're running short on time. So we'll be moving on to the next segment and then coming back to questions. And thank you so much, Ashwini, ma'am. Next up, guys, I'd love to introduce you to Mr. Ashok Pava. He's a sales manager at HP, and HP's always been supporting all these amazing initiatives you want to do with the creative community. HP Indigo specifically has some fantastic things which they have for creative professionals, especially print designers, and you can make the most of it and incorporate new technology when it comes to printing collaterals. So, Mr. Ashok Pava, I'll hand it over to you now.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Team Indifolio and Ashwini ma'am for all your inputs. I'll just take it from where we actually, I picked up some of the cues from Ashwini ma'am's presentation, which clearly says, two, three things which is critical for everyone to be to be competent in the current industry. One is, of course, you have to be optimistic, right? You have to keep trying the new things. You have to be flexible, and the last which I put really important stuff is the critical thinking. And that is where I just want to take all of you to go back a little from what we were discussing, is why it is happening. Whatever is happening today in the world of either it's a commercial packaging or commercial or packaging or any other space of a printing, why it is happening. And the answer lies to one single I would say, I would not call it as a reason, but the factor which is behind all the changes which is happening in the industry today. India is the one of the youngest country in the world today. We have close to around 62% of our population, which is in the working space, which is 15 to 59%. And we have close to around 65% of our population, which is less than 25 years of age. So India is truly a millennial country, right? And if we have a millennial consumers, as the end user of our product, just imagine the life of a brand that we all are associated with, especially the creative people, the designers, the brand people, who want to make sure that these brands really get successful in the current era, catering to all these consumers, right? Which is the millennial. Uh, we have many specifics to the millennial, but definitely, few of the very interesting facts about millennial is they are environmental friendly. They want eco-friendly products. They are social media savvy. They keep checking everything onto the social medias and the internet that they have with them. They value the brands, right? They love the brands, they value the brand, but most important is they are brand disloyal as well, so they can switch the brand from a brand A to brand B in no time. And of course, this is the generation which says, I need something which is for me, I need something which is unique to me, and I need something which is only for me. This is the behavior that we are trying to address with the brands today. And just because of this behavior, what is really happened to the brands that you are catering, all of the fraternity which is sitting here, the brands that you are catering is really like this. There was a no competition space to a low competition space in 80s, to a kind of a very crowded shelf which is around 2020s. And from a physical space, now we have moved to Amazon, which is a virtual marketplace. And not only a virtual marketplace, now it's a privileged virtual marketplace. And of course, the value adds along with the virtual market space. Now in this whole uh, situation today, just imagine what is impacting as a life of a product. We always call it as a product life cycle, right? Just to give you a small example, in 1980s, the product life, from the inception to the maturity to the elimination state, it was close to around 2.25 years. And in year 2000, it has dropped down to 1 year. As of today, it is close to around 62 years, which is half of the year that we have with us. And tomorrow, we don't know what is going to happen. So if this is the case, this is the life of a brand that you are catering to, imagine what their life is all about. They keep on thinking what they never used to think before 1 year, before 2 years, before 3 years. So definitely brand is in a problem, and they need help. They need your help. They need the help of the creative fraternity. They need help of the critical thinkers. They need help of Ashwini, to really grow in today's world and to innovate. the only way they can grow in today's world is the innovations, and this innovation comes from the creativity of people like you. So this is the slide which summarize of what I wanted to say. Today's the brand is in a commodity zone. They are in a red ocean. Their profitability is at a stake. The market has become super competitive, and they don't know what to do. In this time, they actually look forward of your creativity, your innovation, to actually move from a red ocean to a blue ocean, which is their profit zone. And believe me, when I'm saying this, I mean it, that they really depend on you to do this. Right? How do we do this? This is where I just want to change the way I see all creative community today, the design community today. They are a part of a big brand. They do everything which is visible to a consumer. They create that impact which a brand wants to do in a in a consumer's life, but they always on a are always on a backseat. They are not visible to most of the consumers that they cater to. Here I want all of you to see yourself, how do you help brand in your brand positioning. I'll just give you a case study. India is a tea country. Many of the other part of the world, it's a coffee country, and both of the spaces as are very crowded or very competitive, and there is absolutely no space for somebody who wants to enter into this new market. Now, if it is, if it is Elephant Design or any other companies, the new brand comes to you and they say, boss, we want to enter into this market with high value. My product is really good. I am expensive. I am expensive than the regular brand in the market today, but I don't know how to do it. So this is what, a critical thinking, the innovative thinking, along with the technology, can actually make an impact to a brand as well as to the consumer in terms of brand positioning. Just listen to the video and listen to it. Just let me know if copy is visible. Is it audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, it is, yes.
So I just want to check, is there any other better idea to position a brand as an extra fresh when you see the morning newspaper edition which is printed on a coffee pack? Right. This is an innovative thinking. This is what, Ashwini is also saying, that we have to come out of our comfort zone and start looking at the technologies which is available around us to create what brand wants. Right. This is a clear example of this. And what really brand get out of this is, they see the 400% of a jump in their coffee sales, and moreover, they saw 1 million interaction and free medias, which is worth 115,000 US dollar. This is what the collaboration can actually means to any brand. We have a similar story. We have a similar story in a similar crowded market, which is a book market, and the similar situation is there. there, or a problem is there, or a challenge is there for this new brand also, where they say, okay, my conventional market is going down, but I want to create a new avenues. So the statement which is made to a creative agency is to innovate and entering into new segment and applications. And that's where one of the designer like you, they came up with a beautiful solution for this brand, and they really came out with something which is very innovative, which is very personalized, which helped the brand to enter into the market that they wanted. I'll again run one more video. Just look into this video.
Say hello to the Book of Everyone. The Book of Everyone is a new one-of-a-kind gift for that one-of-a-kind person. Our easy-to-use bookmaking website creates a 50-page personalized book about anyone you wish. Marvelous! And it'll be finished in seconds. The Book of Everyone takes the reader on a beautiful journey through the world they were born into. A world of glorious facts and revelations. Like how many tears they've shed in their lifetime. Or how many chromosomes they share with a potato. And the #1 movie when they were born. Write custom messages. And meet some strange, curious characters along the way.
Hurrah for the Breville sandwich toaster.
Just enter a few simple details. Then let the Book of Everyone work its magic. Choose digital, paperback or hardback and premium finishes. Congratulations, your book is now ready to ship. The Book of Everyone is for birthdays, anniversaries, or thanks for feeding Nemo. Say goodbye to the same old presents. Say hello to problem solved. The Book of Everyone. Amazing people deserve an amazing gift. Start someone's book now.
Now, this solution which is created by, again, amongst one of you, actually gave a very new paradigm to a book company to create a book which is a gift. And this is a unique gift which is created. You just need to put your name and a date of birth, and during that year, whatever really has happened is printed in a book and actually is gifted to you. And what really it did to the brand is like this. They saw 300% of year-on-year growth with this innovative solution, from 8,000 books to 350,000 books in 4 years. And their latest edition, which is 3 Pregnant Dads, they got the social media campaign of plus 2,765% in their book sales. This really makes a difference to the brand when a solution like this is offered to them, and it actually demonstrate the critical thinking as well as the collaboration power that you have with the technology. I will take one more example of a brand again, where they want to reinforce their own positioning to the market, which is the Diet Coke, an extra Diet Coke collection. So this Diet Coke was never ever a regular Coke. This was not the same sugar water that we had. This is made for very specific people. This is made for calorie conscious people, and these people are not too much large in number. So what they wanted to reposition this with this campaign, and this is what they actually did with the help of you.
We at Diet Coke believe that each one of us is unique. That in each one of us, you can find that special something that is extraordinary. This is the essence of our brand. We have decided to make an innovative marketing move and replace our branded bottles designs with millions of unique and different looks. Millions of one-of-a-kind bottles. All bottles, in all sizes. Each one is unique. No other bottle in the world looks the same. In order to make our consumers feel extraordinary each time they drink a Diet Coke, we've developed a revolutionary technology. A special algorithm gave the printers the ability to think like a designer and create countless and different amazing designs, which were printed on all the bottles. Millions of designs. Millions of bottles. The launch of the campaign was followed by hundreds of billboard ads. Each billboard looked different. At point of sale, we gave our consumers branded gifts printed with the same designs as appeared on their bottles. We flooded the TV with a groovy spot. and a pop-up commercial every time there was an extraordinary performance on The Voice show. The campaign created a huge buzz on the social media and even on eBay. The results were also extraordinary. We gave our consumers the actual feeling of extraordinary by bringing our brand's values to life.
So this is a beautiful example of a brand theme which is stay extraordinary, which is related to the design, which is created by one of a designer like you. And of course, the brand gets what they want. They get 2 million through this 2 million of a unique design. They get 2.1% of increase in sales and 23% of the brand preference. But what a designer get here is designer get a recognition from a brand stating that this powerful campaign was only based on the design of a bottle. This is where, and what we did as a technology company is we collaborated with the designer. This one critical design, that one single design which is made by the designer, we created an algorithm where out of that one seed design we created 2 million unique design. So this is a collaboration of a creative a personality along with the technology to create something which is unique for the brand, unique for the consumer as an experience. This we call as an HP Mosaic. This was launched in 2012, and we have done many campaigns around the designs, which is specifically to unique design or the design of one, the bottle which is made for one, the design which is made for one. And we have progressed from a design to mosaic to many other different elements of the design. We are happy to connect with a few of the designers who want to take it forward to the next level of applications to their own space. Uh, Beyond what I explained about, how do a designer contributes to a brand in terms of brand image, brand recall, preference, although this is not visible to a creative designer, but believe me, this is what happens when this is implemented into the market. From the brand positioning, I definitely want to take the second bigger element for the brands today, which is to engage with their own consumer, engage with their end consumer. This is the biggest value that a brand can take out of any kind of a communication, whether it is a packaging or a catalog or any kind of a commercial which is directed towards those consumers. They definitely need those kind of an engagement. And this is where the creative community can be benefited with the tools which is available from HP, where we can really help our design to be converted from mass customization to personalization to versioning to seasonal variations to special additions to variable data. And believe us, this is everything is done in the same quality, in the same essence of a perception of a quality as it is done by any other technology. And this is again one of the example that we wanted to share with you, where the engagement has gone to a next level by this by this new inks that we have launched for the printing. Just look to the video. Any of the kid, if they get this book as a Christmas gift to them, believe me, they will never ever forget this Christmas gift for next few years to come. And this is what a brand is looking forward to create this experience with this speciality of the inks that we have. Not only to the books, today, as Ashwini ma'am says, we have the whole of the photo community is changed from a camera to a mobile phones now, and we have so much of a capturing with us, and all those capturings can be utilized by creative people to create a product which is for the millennials. If you see this notebook which is printed with a selfie, and this we call as a selfie notebook. This is a project that we are running with itcclassmateshop.com. They have this website which is live and running, where you can go upload your photographs, and you get a pack of a six in next 24 to 72 hours. This is a power of personalization in a space like notebooks. Not only to the notebooks, we have chocolate, which has become a larger category for us as a gifting. And beyond just a gifting, the personalized chocolate has become the talk of the day today. The Cadbury's took this initiative in India, and they have this cadburygifting.in, the website, which is live, where you can really go to that website. You can upload your photographs, you can create a message for your loved ones, and you can send a beautiful pack of chocolates to your loved ones, for any kind of occasions which is there with us. So personalization connects people. Personalization creates that kind of a connections between a product and a consumer, and this engagement can never be replaced by anything else. And the same, the power of relationship is, I would say, is used by Coke to come out with one of the biggest campaign that they could do in India. This is a campaign which is all about relationships, and in India there is nothing more valuable than relationships. So we have, although Ashwini had a glimpse of, put some light into it, but I definitely want you to take you through this video, which clearly says the power of relationship that we have.
मुझे ही करना पड़ता है सब कुछ. अभी किचन अनपैक कर रही हूँ, उसके बाद लिविंग रूम एंड देन डाइनिंग रूम. आई मीन सांस लेने का भी टाइम नहीं है. अरे यार, आई टोटली गेट यू. यहाँ भी समीर कहाँ हेल्प करता है मुझे. एनीवे, अब कब मिलना है?
वो भी ऐसे ही बैठे बैठे मेरे काम का क्रेडिट खा जाता है. प्लीज कंटिन्यू बेबी.
हर रिश्ता बोला मेरे नाम की कोका कोला.
So what this campaign does is it says taste the feeling, right? And this was not an easy campaign. This was done with Coke along with their creative company. And what was done is, the all the efforts which is put by creative companies to create those relationships, and the tagline about those relationships. And what we did is, with our technology, we printed 12 crores, 120 millions of digitally printed wraparound labels in 85 days in 12 different languages, 238 total relationships put into the languages in 30 locations. So at the end of the day, what we did is, we printed, as a printing company, we printed 9,200 unique artwork. But what it did for you and for the brand is to actually create that kind of an engagement platform, which was never possible before. So this is what the technology can collaborate with the creative people today and create a different kind of an engagement and the user experience. Of course, sustainability is a talk of the town today, but I would always say sustainability is not a choice. This is what we have to do, and we have so many of the initiatives which is taken for making sustainability as a part of everyday's life. There are a few examples that we want to take. If you see this LA magazine, this is the first ever limited edition which was printed 100% on a sustainable paper. This was a special edition for Women on Mission, which was actually honoring the female leader in the organization that actually works with the nature. And if you see this, the title, the cover page is actually printed on 100% of PCW paper, the post-consumer waste stock paper, which is made for the waste paper itself. And the inner pages is the 30% on PCW stock. So for us, sustainability actually starts from home itself. It is one is, of course, to print less what is needed. Second is to print on a sustainable paper, and third is to create that kind of a engagement process which definitely helps the mother earth to consume the less of the material which is possible. Not only onto this, I think uh, being sustainable is one of the agenda, but explaining it to the audience and creating a value around sustainability is another another factor. And this is what this company does. This Book of Everyone, what they do is, in every product that they sell, they say it is actually printed using an environmental eco-friendly printing process, which clearly tells all the consumers that even if they are buying it at a higher value, they are contributing towards Mother Earth here. So this is the propaganda, which is again with the help of technology and the online retail, which we can propagate to our consumers. Uh, this is what I wanted to connect, and I wanted to say when it comes to creative thinking and the contribution of designers like you can create an impact to the brands using the technology. And the way we do it, of course, we have our own technology with us, which is an HP Indigo press. What you get is the true offset quality, minimum quantity. You don't need a high quantity onto this. And what it matters to you as a designer is the print quality is not media dependent. It doesn't changes with the change of a paper, right? This is the most important element that I could understand from speaking to so many designers. Not only the print quality, the value of the features of the technology will help you to go beyond what we are doing today. And Silver Ink is one of them. We have launched Silver Ink in digital, and believe me, Silver Ink, with the capability of a Silver Ink, we have capability to print close to around 300 metallic shades today using CMYK on top of Silver Ink, and that will change the way the designer actually creates the new creatives going forward. Beyond Silver Ink, as everybody's talking today, is that the eco-friendly paper, the FSC certified papers, the PCW papers are on a major demand today. And what you need is actually, you need only one white ink to print on those kind of a paper. And this, the premium white that we have with us definitely works on craft paper, colored paper, cleared paper. So we value the changes which is happening on a brand size by giving them those kind of a solution, which will definitely create a right visual effect along with the paper that they're using. Uh, to create some kind of different experience, we have a specialized ink with us, which is the fluorescent ink, which is pink, yellow, orange, and green. And believe me, just by using the ink on very few of your artwork, you can create a very different user experience from a consumer as well as from the brand side. So fluorescent is something which is critical for which we recommend for a designer to use it in their own design. Scratch off ink is another ink that we have launched. I will not go deep into detail just in the invest of time, but I will put a minute here where I can say with the help of our technology, you can print anything. When I say anything, you can print on paper, you can print on non-paper, which is the texture paper. You can print on handmade paper. You can print on wood veneer. Wood veneer is actually the real-time wood which is extracted from a city near to the Kerala, Cochin, and it is paper bagged, and we do print it on Indigo machines. We print on canvas, which is the real canvas, which is optimized for Indigo, and you can see those beautiful prints coming out on those canvas. So for you, material is not a limitation when it comes to printing on an Indigo, and this is what we want to emphasize here. In the last, what I want is, the key takeaway or a recommendation from our side to this community, which is creating a lot of impact onto human life, is one is to collaborate. Right. When we say collaborate, please give more powers to your creatives using, the HP unique designs and the softwares, which will definitely help you to go beyond a single creatives to create a multiple n number of creatives out of the same design. Be impactful. When I say be impactful, your designs are really good, your creatives are really good. Maybe some use of some kind of a special inks can give it a different experience altogether. And in the last, definitely, when we say no boundaries, please give the shape to your creative thinking. Whatever you think, there is a possibility that we can come out with any kind of a solution, or a solution which can give a shape to your creativity. And to do this, we have a contest also which is running. Kamal will actually give you more detail onto that contest. Please send us the entry. There is a possibility that few of the entries can take place into the Word of our Brands today. And with this, I would finish my presentation with only one thing, which is the best way to predict the future is to create the future now. And it is good to ask help. It is good to collaborate. It is good to use the peripheries technology to in your own favor to make it little more impactful. So with this, thank you so much, everyone. And if you have any questions, you can drop a mail to me on this email ID, which is populating on your screen now. And happy to take the questions. Over to you, Kamal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashok. That was a very fun presentation, seeing all those amazing examples. Actually, I can clearly see that the that there is a lot of personalization and a lot of customization which is coming up. A lot of experiential packaging also, and print is also becoming the norm. And I think that's something for at least me to note, and for all of us to note, is what brands and what new companies are doing is make the most of that in print too. Moving to the last segment, guys, would love to invite even Ashwini ma'am now. So we'll have a panel discussion between Ashwini ma'am and Mr. Ashok on a bunch of things. So please drop in your questions if you have anything specifically. There are a couple of questions which we have curated, which have also been asked to us by the attendees. So I'm just gonna start off with that. One thing which I wanted to start off by asking, and this is honestly for the both of you. Maybe Ashwini ma'am, you can start off, and then Ashok, you can get on that. Is very, very often whenever I've been reading personally about the future of print, people keep on talking about that 10 years from now the boundaries between digital and physical worlds will be merging, especially because of what's happening in 3D printing, AR and VR. So I wanted to understand from the both of you, since you've been working in the Indian market so closely, where do you think these innovations will lie, and what does that mean for a young print designer? What do I need to make the most of, and how can I get kick-started with that? Was what I was keen to know.
So this is a big question, and all of us are kind of crystal ball gazing, and especially last 10 months have made us realize that no matter what gazing we had done, that wasn't enough. But I think the boundaries have already blurred, and I think there is a lot of so the digital is reflecting a lot onto print, whether it is packaging or whether it is catalogs or whether it is newspaper advertising. I think there is already a mix of both. What might happen is, and that's my hope and wish, that we'll add more sensorials. So I'm just hoping that print gets added with the sound and smell and tactile, and all of that kind of merges and gives us a far richer experience. And I think that's what might happen, and that's what is my hope.
That sounds really exciting, honestly speaking. If you believe that's going to happen very soon, what do you think, Mr. Ashok?
No, definitely. I think there are two things which I want to highlight here. Is the first is say if you see our the economy and the GDP growth and other things, you see the per capita consumption of packaging is growing up in Indian market, right? If that is growing up, there is definitely a wider scope for all print packaging product in India. And we are not even at a we are not even 1/10 of a China today, right? In terms of the consumption of a packaging material in India. So maybe there is a mind shift which may happen from from one is, of course, the packaging product will give a much higher growth in print categories. Second is, in commercial category, the print has to stay relevant. Right. When I say print has to stay relevant, this is what Ashwini ma'am has said. This is what we are also saying. Maybe an online offline combination of a print, right, will help the brands to reach out to their target audience. So one thing which I can tell you here is, in today's environment, in Amazon today, if you see how many products are being sold on Amazon today, there are close to around 10 crores product which is available as of today on Amazon to be bought over by a consumer. Right. So of course, these all products are packaged. Now, what do product need to do to reach out to their audience in terms of their own communication strategy, and which is the best communication strategy? This is where digital and print may kind of fall in line with each other. But our study says both technologies going hand in hand together will create much more hit ratios for the brand in a coming future time. We have some kind of a data with us where, the hit ratio for just digital is close to around 2.7%. When it comes to print plus digital, it comes to around 3.7%. So this is where, the collaboration will start happening. And definitely whatever, we have shared in the videos today, if we create those kind of engagement processes for a brand, print is going to live for a very long life.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much, guys. Moving on to the next question, especially, and this is for you, Ashok. So, well, everybody's been asking about how can we, as an independent designer who's maybe in the early stage of their career, understand the sustainability quotient, right? Like how I just asked Ashwini ma'am as well. Does HP Indigo have something which a creative person can see and understand as to what they can make the most of that? Because very often technologies, print, the machinery really helps us at the end of the day execute what's in our mind. So if you can help us, with a certain, if you can help us with what's in the store for HP Indigo and what maybe as designers we should be aware of to make things more sustainable, would be great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, as I said, this is the talk of the town today. And, believe me, I just want to take a one step, backward for the design community today. Say, sustainability is not a one action that you will take to make yourself as a contributor to the Mother Earth. It's a series of, the thought processes that has to come to you to make, first of all, yourself as a sustainable thinker, then make sure that you create a society which is sustainable thinking society, right? And the way we see from a technology perspective, that way we see is, of course, the production process, the printing process itself has to be a sustainable process with the no carbon footprints when it is manufacturing, and all those definitely is a part of our process, complete process. This is a complete sustainable solution that we have. We take care of no chemicals which is being used during the process, post the process, so there is no wastages which is included into it. And moreover, digital is, when I say digital, is sustainable itself, because we don't print which is going to get wasted, right? What we print is what is going to get consumed. And if we, and believe me, this idea is not yet gone into the community per se, which is kind of, if you go to a brand and you ask them, out of their total SKUs or a product line, how much their total revenue comes from, what percentage of a product, and how much is the packaging material or the communication material that is pulped because of no usage, you will get the answer, right? So what we recommend most of the time is, because the technology is available, which is kind of a just-in-time manufacturing of packaging and a communication material, please print what is needed, which is floated into the market. If demand comes back to you, print it more and more. This is where we want to make, instead of looking at the landfill and say, okay, I've done a crime, I would say, let's not do it, right? And make the society more sustainable.
Understood. Understood. I think there's a suggestion from Prajakta also where maybe there could be an FAQ page which can be co-created, and any queries which anybody has, that can be kind of inserted there, and somebody from HP could maybe over a period of time answer it. Just so I'll point that out to you. Next question I have for you is Ashwini ma'am, is this constant war there is always between print and digital, and one highlight of that always is that digital is so much more measurable, right? And that's where it has an advantage. But I know for a fact that when you're doing packaging for a brand like, let's say, a Kurkure, there's a lot which goes into understanding the effectivity of that particular design exercise. So would love to know your thoughts on when a designer is creating a print campaign or a print heavy collateral, how can one measure the effectivity of the same?
Yeah, so this is again a very difficult one. There are no there are no TRP kind of ratings which we can sort of look at and say that this is the way to sort of measure it. But proof is always in sales. I mean, I might sound very commercial when I say this, but whether you're selling a product or you're selling an idea or a concept or an experience, if your intended target audience is showing up and using it, and that's really the proof. So I'll give you an example. We were a few years ago. We were trying to. We were working with a newspaper group, a media group, and the group was trying to do something for the city. And the specific project chosen was the buses in Pune city. And the whole point was to sort of create a prototype in case there were better bus routes, better timetables, and more number of buses. Would more people use them? And then the idea was to actually bring in buses from other cities for that one day, like a prototype day, we call it Pune Bus Day, and get people to use buses. And we did a campaign on the front page of newspaper for just 10 days. And the response on that Pune bus day was phenomenal. We had 60% more people hopping onto buses in Pune that day. And that's it. The proof is whether somebody's bought your concept or idea or product or experience or whatever. So then you don't need any other measurements.
Wow.
It's like
Yeah.
good work gets you more good work, and that's really how it is.
Great, awesome. I think it's just as long as you are able to measure. I mean, if you are aware that you want to measure the output, I think that's going to be key. Very often, I have seen young designers not caring for that last mile of understanding. Hey, is my design even working or not? So I think that definitely answers the question. Next up, again, a question for the both of you is. I think the what I'd like to kind of address is very often we've been hearing, especially in the publication sector, that's on the verge of dying, and I recently heard it's a different topic. However, our consulting companies are letting go of accountants in bulk, because over the 10 years it's going to get automated. So the truth of the matter is, as you mentioned in your talk as well, that whenever an innovation has happened, there's always been a larger shift, which doesn't necessarily mean an unemployment, but it actually creates new jobs. So how can a print designer prep himself or herself in this time? What if we can have like some insights from you? Firstly, is the publishing sector, for example, dying? And if it is evolving, what should I be prepped for? Those are the two questions I'd love to get your thoughts on. Maybe Mr. Ashok, you can start off in this case.
Yeah, just one clarification over here is, when you say publication, what exactly is the sector you are referring to here? It's a large community. Publication is a very vast field. Is there a trade books? Is there a fiction book? Is there a education? What exactly is?
I think this is a broad one, so I'm guessing everything from a magazine to the books to any kind of content which I'm able to essentially consume on a offline medium is where I believe this question is coming from.
Okay. So I'll put it in a very straightforward way. Say in the literacy rate in India. Right. If you see the number of the people getting admissions in the schools today, right, we have a long way to go, and the education books is growing actually. If you see the education book, that market is still growing. Right. So there is no way that somebody who's related to an education industry should be worried about getting such kind of a paradigm shift in India that you may lose some kind of your skill set into it. When it comes to the trade books and the other level of books, definitely there is a change which is happening, is more of what we call is a print on demand, right? Instead of really getting a publisher getting it royalty done and then publish 200,000 300,000 books and then wait for those books to be sold in next 2 3 4 years, what is really happening is today the author either can self-publish the book or can actually collaborate with the biggest of the world like Amazon and Flipkart, and they can work something which is print on demand, which means any books which is being sold every day basis is getting printed and getting delivered. So this change will definitely impact many of the intermediaries. But during this process, what you will see is you will see many of the authors coming into limelight today. Earlier, getting your book published was a key task. You have to really struggle for 5 years to get your first book published. Today, we have many companies in India who are supporting the new authors to just come onto the track and publish their books. And the number of copies, the first edition which is printed is like 50 books, 100 books, which is circulated to those categories. So that category is kind of a changing. When it comes to the magazines and journals, right? This is where you may see some kind of a change which is happening, right? And to be very honest, where it is going to land up, we don't have a clue as of now, right? Because in India, we still read what we want to read. During the COVID times, although the newspapers, the production has gone down, but it is not depleted. We are back onto the track. Today, everybody is getting their newspaper. In the morning, with a tea, everybody wants to have their newspaper. So buying behavior and the behavior of the consumer will definitely, have an impact onto the productions of these volumes. But I don't think so. We should be worrying about it. That's my opinion.
Understood. Over to you, Ashwini, ma'am.
Yeah, so there was also a question on generative design a
Yeah.
while ago in one of the questions, and I think I would take it from that angle. That as designers, are we worried that the algorithm based design or AI based design will it take away our jobs? Before it design even became a job, it's being taken away. So I think let me be very frank and let me tell all who believe that as designers their job is to create designs. I think our job is, we happen to be designers, but what is it that we really do? I think the whole strength has to lie in the way we tell a story, or what is the story that we build for anything that we do, right? Is it whether it's a publication or whether it's a book, magazine, newspaper, brochure, packaging, app, website, what have you? I think as designers, we are trained to align and tell a great story. Now, if that involves a certain skill that can be done by machines, why not? That frees you to tell more stories. So, I don't think we should be unduly worried. We should be worried about our storytelling strengths. I think that's what we need to focus on, not on our menial skills that can be taken away by machines.
Absolutely. I think, a couple of years ago, there was this big argument, a digital designer, when Photoshop came into the scene, where people were like, the amount of work I do to put it on the paper and create a font and, make animations was, always an argument. And honestly speaking, the people who embraced it really changed the way the industry functioned after that. And honestly speaking, I really believe that new technologies, it's the biggest problem according to me, at least as a designer myself, is I have a thought and sometimes it takes too long for me to get it out. All these things are just making it easier for me to actually do that. Very often also design is an iterative process, especially when it comes to something like communication, like specifically communication design, graphic design. And having somebody just give me multiple layouts in front of me instead of me trying that out would be so awesome, right? And then I will be always the person who will make a decision, because like you said, it's my responsibility to tell the right story, and people will still constantly rely on you to pick that best one. So I absolutely agree with what you have to say. Next up, a specific question for you, Mr. Ashok. So what happens is very often designers are asked to recommend what's going to be the execution even at the print level, especially if you're working with younger companies. A lot of people these days are actually making their own brands from home and running cloud kitchens. And that's where packaging has become extremely democratized, where it's not just big brands, but also small companies and small, shops who are wanting to do that. Now, in such a scenario, HP Indigo, of course, has industry grade machine, but maybe that's something which is not accessible to everybody. So wanted to ask you, HP Indigo generally, what would you like to say to designers here as to what recommendations can we make to potential customers who can actually use your products to bring those designs to life?
Yeah. No, I think the question, if I see it correctly, is the access of the technology to all the designers, right? And we truly believe that the way we are growing in Indian market is we are present all major cities in India today. But in the last in 6 to 8 months, what we have learned also is to how do we interact digitally in terms of creating those kind of an experience through all designers. So we have few of our PSPs or service providers who can give those kind of an experience. You need not to visit their the printing printing facilities, just upload your artwork onto their, the e-commerce website or the web2print website, and they can give you the similar experience sitting at your home. So this shift has already, come into the picture. In our next masterclass, we will have, one of our gentlemen who will be speaking about how do we bridge this gap of a perception versus execution, right? This is what I always feel. So to do this, we have few of our service provider which has already created those infrastructure with them, right, which we can share the details with you, where you need not to go anywhere, sit on your PC, the same PC that you are designing, upload your artwork, select the media that you want to print, create a mock-up, get your first mock-up, everything goes okay, get it done to for a production. This is for the B2B designers. When it comes to the brand, say what brand look forward is definitely there is a quality standards that I look forward to, which Indigo qualifies the best. The second thing is they really see the colors, the capability or the production, right, and consistency of the color. This is where we have improved our technology to a larger strength, where today, if you ask me, brand loves Indigo print. The Coke of the world, the P&G, HLLs, we have done a lot of campaigns with most of the brands today, and we have qualified to their stringent requirement of the design and the color reproduction to our technology. So from that front, I think designers should not be too much worried when they are going to an Indigo printer about if the requirement of the brand is going to be met on an Indigo. Answer is yes.
Understood. Understood. Fair enough. I think we could even send across some communication to the attendees who are quite curious to, know what's next, where they, hey, I want to get a bunch of things printed, and what's the best way for me to, what's the best way for me to kind of connect the client or whoever else who I'm working with to get those, prints come to life. So I understood that. Last bit again, again, I think we are almost towards the end of the event now. I wanted to ask you is, Ashwini ma'am, I think Ashok just showed us a bunch of really good collaborations, which while there have been some mentions of Indian brands, a lot of, Western brands doing, collaborating with the community. And as Indie Network, we are one of the largest creative communities in India. And I personally am quite curious as to what are your thoughts on brands, in fact, opening themselves up to a large community, because we have the community in place, we've got the tech in place because of HP Indigo. What's your thought on how the community can be leveraged by brands to make print more personal, print more versatile?
I think first of all, there needs to be kind of a maker lab or, some kind of an experimental lab, whether HP can do that, or I don't know if it can be done again in collaboration between HP and few others who can sort of make the lab far more well-rounded. Because unless we know what are the possibilities and we actually get our hands on them and experiment and see what the results are, it'll never give us the confidence to suggest those to clients. And same thing for the clients, I guess, unless they actually are able to see, what kind of innovation or what kind of experimentation they're going to get into, it's a little difficult for them also to commit. So maybe, whether it's a virtual lab or an actual maker lab, I don't know, but it might be a great idea to have, all the ideas or all the possibilities put together and made available and, opened out, so to say. And I am personally really excited to see some of the possibilities today. And I think I don't know why it was, it wasn't a masterclass from me, but I think it was one for me as well. So thank you so much, Ashok, for sharing all those interesting examples. And I'm sure many of us have learned more.
Sure, thank you. And as you rightly said, Ashwini, what we have done is over last few years, we have kind of, trying to bridge this gap of a perception versus execution. So we have our Center of Excellence in Singapore, which is equipped enough to actually give you a POC both on a pre-press as well as on a press front, right? And we have worked with many companies in India and many brands in India to actually develop the POCs in that center and ship it back to them. And to do this licensing, we have created an internal team, which we call as a business development managers. We have HP representative who is liable to actually connect between the brand and the service provider and the lab to create that kind of a POC for those experiences. So we are happy to collaborate here with any of the designers. We have three resources which is already employed to license this kind of a network and to be benefited. All the stakeholders to be benefited out of it. So happy to connect with all the brands who wants to, all the designers who want to really take these campaigns going forward, give a POC to their brands, and come forward in an execution and a limelight in India as well. And just to correct Karan, what you said is, although the stories are from outside India, but believe me, in India we have many stories which we have already done. Right, Paperboat is one of the story from Ashwini. We have, a raw juice, which is a raw pressery juice, which is a story from an Indigo, where a startup actually started with, an innovative idea. Then they did not have, I would not say they did not have a financial muscles to do this, but they wanted to go slow and make impression into the market. And Indigo actually, one of our service provider helped this campaign going with a raw pressery from a startup company to a big company now. Similarly, we have many companies in India today who is helping the startup community to come out of their, I'm sorry to say, the MOQs. For us, MOQs is not relevant. We don't really talk about MOQs. What we talk about is an idea, how this idea is benefited to a brand, and what do we do with this idea is what we do, within HP. So happy to connect with, anyone to take the discussion forward. And thank you so much, Ashwini, for your appreciation.
Great, guys. I think super validation, both from a market and a technology perspective. I think as a community of designers, we're always looking for, people to really help us make the most of our time, make the most of our collaborative, approach to various things. So thank you so much for that. And I think this brings us to the end of the panel discussion and even the session. Thank you so much, Ashok, for joining and giving us that beautiful presentation. And of course, Ashwini ma'am, for coming and, being a part of this. I think it was fantastic. And we're very honored to really have you all as part of the session.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Awesome. And I think lastly, to all the about almost 150 people who also tuned in, thanks a ton, guys, for giving us a part of your Thursday evening. We really hope that we could make this experience valuable to you, and definitely hope that you're quite excited about print. Print is not dead, and that's not going to happen. And wanted to, before we end the session, just remind you guys about the contest, which we were all talking about. It's on hpindigo.indiefolio.com. Have a look at it. It's something HP Indigo is already doing for you guys, where you can submit your packaging designs or poster designs, etc., and either get a life-size, full-size printed artwork of it, or get a bunch of HP laptops, and definitely get certificates on the way as well. So once again, thanks a lot, everybody. We are soon going to have more sessions as part of this campaign. So stay tuned and watch this space. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.